How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Foggins Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to yet another movie review, aka Afro's Soul review video for today. For this new aka Afro's Soul review video for today, this is going to be my review on a brand new release film for 2022, which this movie came out just a couple days ago around the globe. And I did see this movie on opening day, and I was planning to review this film the day I saw this movie, but I had work coming up and all that, and plus my work was very busy with this release because this is one of the biggest releases for September. So I decided I'll just wait till I'm finished with my shift from work, from dealing with this big release. And since I'm off work for a couple of days, I decided to give you guys my personal thoughts on what I thought of this new release. So today's review is going to be my review on the 2022 psychological thriller, and that movie is, of course, Don't Worry Darling. Now, this is a newest film by Olivia Wilde, who directed this movie, and this was her second film as director, in which her first film was released back in 2019 as a director, which was, of course, Booksmart, and I absolutely love Booksmart. It's a hilarious yet perfect teen coming-of-age comedy film, and one of the best teen films of the last decade, and one of my favorite high school films, and of course one of my favorite films of that year, 2019. So she's moved on from a different genre, which was a teen comedy film, to a psychological thriller, which is this film. And she's also one of the stars of this film too. And this film also has some talented actors in this film, such as Florence, Pugh, Harry Styles, Chris Pine, and Kroll, and amongst others. And the story of this movie is that this is set in the 50s, where we follow this couple named Jack and Alice, who are played by Harry Styles and Florence Pugh, and they live in this idolized community town, where we see some other characters in this film where we see other characters who were played by Kroll and Olivia Wilde, and amongst others. And when we see the husbands in the film, that where they told away to do their jobs, we see their wives. Once their husbands leave, we see the wives basically start to just relax with the beauty and the luxury and everything like that. Until for the main character Alice, she soon starts to discover some dark secrets that has something to do with this idolized town she's living in. And she's questioning stuff like why she's seeing all this disturbing stuff and not everyone else, because no one seems to believe her, of course. So for Alice, she of course has to discover the dark secret, and that this dark secret of this whole town she's living in, and hopefully she can escape. So that's pretty much the story of Don't Worry Darling. Now, of course, I was really excited for this movie. This was one of my most anticipated movies of this year, as well as for my number one most anticipated movie for September of this year as well. And for Olivia Wilde, which this is her second film as director, she has made a movie before as director, which was released back in 2019, which was, of course, Booksmart. And I really love Booksmart so much. It was a brilliant movie, and it was one of my favorite teen movies of the last decade, and one of my favorite movies of 2019, and it was definitely in my favorite of the year list. And so for Olivia Wilde as director, after what Olivia Wilde did with that movie, I was really looking forward to seeing what she can do next as a director. And so when I heard when she was making a new movie, of course, I was genuinely excited for this one. And I was really intrigued to see what she can do for this kind of film, because this is a different take from what she did from Booksmart. Because for Booksmart, that was a teen coming-of-age comedy film, and for this movie, Don't Worry Darling, it's a psychological thriller. So I was really intrigued to see what she can do for this kind of genre of film. And for the cast in the film, like I said, you've got an all-star cast in this film, like Florence Pugh, which I think she's a great actress. Harry Styles, which he's a pretty talented performer, I would say. Although I don't listen to his music that much, but he's a talented performer. And I haven't seen him in much movies, but he has done a movie before, which was Dunkirk, which he was pretty good at that. And you also have Chris Pine. I think he's a really good actor. I liked him in Wonder Woman and the Star Trek movies too. And you have Gemma, which she has done movies before in the past. I think she's talented. And Kroll as well, which he's a really funny actor too. So I was looking forward to seeing what these cast members can do for this movie. And before I did actually see the trailers for this film, I did hear some articles that was surrounding this film, behind the scenes story for this film, like the casting and all that. Like I heard that Shia LaBeouf was supposed to be in this movie, and he was supposed to play the character that Harry Styles plays in this movie, but what ended up happening is to him is that he got fired from the project, and Harry Styles stepped in LaBeouf's footsteps to portray the character that he was supposed to play, which really shocked me of like what happened and all that. And once I did see the trailers, of course, I was really pumped for this movie. And when this movie was coming out to the general public, I heard a lot of news articles that was surrounding this film, like the press conference, the film festivals, and everything like that, and what was going on. From hearing all that, it was just so bizarre, like what was going on. But I was still excited to see this movie nonetheless, though. And so I went to see this movie on the 23rd of September of this year, and there was a lot of people. There was quite a lot of people in my screenings. I guess there was loads who were just like me, who were really excited for this movie. And after walking out of this movie, unfortunately, this one was a minor step down from Booksmart, because this movie wasn't like what Booksmart was like for me. Because I found this movie to pretty much be a mess of a movie here, which it's a big shame, really, because I was expecting this to be another great surprise for this year, but unfortunately for what ended up happening to this movie, unfortunately, it kind of let me down. Now, obviously, I did not hate everything about Don't Worry Darlings. There's quite a few things to really like in this movie, like the performances. I thought everyone gave really great performances here in this movie. Florence Pugh, she definitely gave a phenomenal performance here in this movie. She is so damn good in this movie, and she's yet really powerful in this movie as the main character. And for Florence Pugh as an actress, I could definitely say she's definitely become a really great actress for this new generation for her movies, because she's really good at acting in movies, and she's definitely become one of my favorite actresses. And as for the performances, you've got Chris Pine in this movie, who plays like the villain in this movie. He was really good in this movie. And as for the performances, you've got Olivia Wilde, Kroll, and Gemma. They were all really good too in this movie, and everyone else, they were also really good too. But as for Harry Styles in this movie, well, there are times where his acting isn't too bad. Like, there are times where he's giving his all, but there are times in the film where I kind of found his acting talent kind of bland, really, and just wasn't great. But I wouldn't say his performance in this movie is definitely one of the worst acting performances of this entire year. Because again, there are times where he's giving his all, but there are just times where I kind of found his acting not great. But anyway, let's move on from that. The direction in the film from Olivia Wilde, and the cinematography looks very beautiful and looks very unique for this, like the whole production design of this film, like the settings, the costumes, and the cars in the film. I thought it looked very unique for this kind of style of film, because again, this movie is set in the 50s. And and there are some directed moments when we get to see some like disturbing stuff and all that. Since this is a psychological thriller, I kind of found some directing moments of that just not great, because it's mostly due to the editing, I kind of found some editing choices in the film kind of distracting for me. And the music in the film, I thought the music for this movie fit really well for this film, and it fit perfectly well for the timing of this film, since this movie is set in the 50s. That's the pros I can say for this film, but the problems I do have with this movie is its story, the concept, and the script. Like, the concept for the film, it almost does have originality to it, but it does take some essence from like other films and all that, like say The Truman Show or The Matrix. It kind of reminded me of all of that once I was watching this movie. But I do respect Olivia Wilde for making a totally different kind of film, from moving on from the teen genre to a thriller genre. But I just kind of wish the whole concept had some other originalities to it, instead of taking some essence from other movies. And the story of this film, well, it's kind of one of those stories we've probably experienced before in the past from like other like psychological thrillers. And there are times with its storytelling I kind of found confusing, really. But there are times where there are times I did understand what was going on, but there are times where I just couldn't figure out what was going on, and it was kind of hard for me to catch up, because while it didn't make me bored or anything, it didn't make me want to fall asleep or anything. I was just trying to figure out what was going on, but I kind of found it distracting for me. It just kind of felt like, to me, I was trying to grab so many puzzle pieces, but they were too hard for me to catch, and I just couldn't put them all together to understand what was going on. And the third act of the film, like the final act of the film, is my biggest problem with this whole story. Like the twist this film, which this film does have a twist, of course, since this is a psychological thriller. I kind of found the twist for this film not great, and it kind of ruined the film for me. And I didn't really expect the whole twist to be like that. I was expecting something, amazing, but unfortunately for what this whole plot twist this movie showed to me, when I first saw it on the big screen, I was just like, what is going on? I was just like that when it happened. When the film drew to a close, I was just like, oh, I didn't really expect that to be over. I was expecting something else to happen, which that kind of ruined the film for me. But again, I do respect Olivia Wilde for making a totally different film, but again, I kind of wish it would have had some originality to it. Like, Booksmart did have originality to it, which for that film is about two teenage girls who missed out on having fun, you know, like missing out on like parties and stuff because, you know, they wanted to study harder to basically focus on the future, which I really like that originality to a teen genre. But for this film, it didn't kind of this film didn't have any originalities to it because again it took some essence and it kind of like messed up my brain a little bit because I kind of found it a bit distracting for me and I kind of found it confusing at the same time. But again, Don't Worry Darling, again, I wouldn't say this is a bad film. It's definitely not one of the worst this year. Again, this one I kind of found this pretty much of a disappointment. But again, it has top-notch performances. It's very nice to look at. And the music I really like too. But for the story, like the whole concept and the finale, it kind of just ruined the film for me. And again, it just took some essence from other films and all that. But if you're excited for this film, you may have a good time with this one because audiences are really enjoying this one a lot more than critics did. Because, you know, critics are kind of mixed on this film like myself. But that's pretty much all I have to say about Don't Worry Darling. Other than this movie just wasn't what I was expecting. What I was hoping this film would be to me, since this was one of my most anticipated films for 2022. I'm gonna give Don't Worry Darling 2.5 out of 5. As I said before, this definitely wasn't a bad movie because, again, I found this movie pretty much being a disappointing mess of a movie, which, again, is really sad for me to say that because, again, I was really anticipating for this movie like most of my friends were, and I was hoping this would be another great surprise for this year. But after seeing this whole thing, again, I didn't flat out hate everything about this movie because, again, there was a few things I really liked in this movie, but everything else that was surrounding this film, it just made me disappointed with this whole movie. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching my AK Afro Soul review on Don't Worry Darling, and let me know what you think of this new release. If you have seen this already, if you just recently checked out this movie, did you really enjoy this one, or were you massively disappointed with this? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and this has been Falcon's Media Corner signing off.